Locked in the bunker, shadows shake. One man clapping secrets awake. Board games living, dice they break. Echoes pound and hearts they quake. In the bunker, board games rolling. One man clapping, stories growing. Hard rock thunder, speakers blowing. Clapping loud, the unknown.
Welcome to the sound of one man clapping. I am the one man coming to you direct from the bunker, but I am not just one man today. Today, we're going through another edition of what I like to call Not All Heroes Wear Capes, and we have a very special guest on the show. I'd like to give a huge shout out and a huge welcome to the one and only Luke Badger. Luke, welcome to One Man Clapping.
Thank you so much. Absolute pleasure to be here.
And if you don't have the name Luke Badger at the forefront of your prefrontal cortex, everyone, Luke and a small team of very close cohorts are responsible for bringing Regicide into the world. So we're here to talk about Luke, his board game life and history. We're going to talk about Regicide, Regicide Legacy, the two new games that are coming to crowdfunding, all things Regicide and all things Regicide adjacent. But more importantly, what we want to talk about is Mr. Luke Badger. How does that sound, Luke?
That's fine with me. Yep.
Ticks boxes.
Be a bit of fun.
Awesome. So for all the listeners at home, at work, driving in the car, whatever you happen to be doing today, and I will say, Luke, I know you've listened a little bit. I do swear a little on the podcast. I have been known to very occasionally drop and I'm just trying to say it's okay. You don't have to. If I do, don't drop your microphone. That's all I'm trying to say.
Brace myself.
Now on the pod, I know I've told this story at least once, but I had the pleasure of meeting Luke. It was PAX 2024, wasn't it, Luke?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, 20. I checked. I didn't get back to 25, but it was 24.
Yeah, so PAX 2024, which is in Melbourne, Australia. It's our largest gaming conference in the country. I believe it's the largest one in the Southern Hemisphere, but I could be wrong on that. Somebody can fact check me if you like, because I don't have time to do so. But I was at PAX for all 3 days, and PAX is a wonderful experience if you're into games of any kind. They've got board games, they've got video games, they've got VR, they've got retro pinball. They've got the old Intellivision and Atari systems there that you can play. And if you're into games of any kind, it is a spectacular 3 days. And I think it was day 3. It was last day, if I'm not mistaken. It was Sunday.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and I'd seen all I wanted to see from the publishers and the designers, because if you're into seeing new designers, PAX is a wonderful place for that. And Sunday's more a day to just top up stuff, do the last few sort of walk-arounds. But really, I like to play a few games on Sunday. And PAX has PAX has a not terrible library. The library can be a little bit dated, but it's not a terrible library. There's probably 300 or 400 games in there, and some of them look like they've seen 10 or 12, PAX events. And we met in the library, didn't we, Luke? We were walking through the library.
I
I
walked out. I think I
you
was
had
your game, and then
You had sat down and you'd put up a banner saying "looking for a teacher." I think for Arc Nova. That's right. And I thought, well, Arc Nova, I love Arc Nova. I'm happy to teach a game of Arc Nova. It's the last sort of 3 hours of the day, and what a great way to finish the day. So I introduced myself and I sat down. And we had another delightful young lady with us whose sole job at PAX was to teach games. I can't remember her name for the life of me, but she had offered.
I think it might have been Jupiter.
That sounds right. And she was a delight. And so we sat down, we played a 3-player game of Arc Nova. And Arc Nova's, I won't say it's my most played game, but I have played a lot of games of Arc Nova, and I really, really like Arc Nova. And I remember we were going through Arc Nova, and we got to about the half-hour mark, and you'd look a little bit like you'd had a mini stroke. And then we got through another 15 minutes, and you could see the Matrix. I remember that moment you could see the Matrix. I think you slapped the table and you went, I see this, I got this now. And from there, it was a great game. Arc Nova, I really enjoy it. I'm not sure you were sold on it the first play. I seem to remember you went, I'm maybe 50-50 on that. Am I right on that one?
Well, it's definitely on the heavier side of stuff that I would ever play.
Yeah.
So, and also, I was wanting to get through it just like really quick. When I play a game for the first time, I don't need to win, and I don't even need to understand. I just want to get through and just experience the mechanisms as quickly as possible. And then at some point, if I click halfway through, and that's fine. And if I lose by 50 points, I don't care. So I was just wanting to get through it with nice and fast.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed it. I did click, and I liked the liked so much about it that I actually went home and then knocked out 10 games on Board Game Arena and
Amazing.
sort of got my head around, okay, I understand the system now. It was good fun.
Yeah, I'm very similar with you. I mean, my mantra is I like to win, but I love to play, right? So for me, I'm very similar. It's I don't agonize over turns. If I miss it, if I do a misplay, I'm not big on do-overs or going back. I just suck it because I'm there for the experience. So, but we went from there, and you said, oh, we got time. You want to play another game? I went, yeah, of course, let's play another game. And you'd said to me, I've always wanted to play Abyss, and I think I saw a copy. And I'd never even heard of Abyss. And Abyss is, I think it's a 2017 game. And so you found a game of Abyss. We sat down. We had these two young fellas join us for a game who weren't even board gamers. They were here for the Xbox stuff next door. And they were like, well, we got to go at 5 because we got to be there to get some free posters we've signed up for or something. I can't remember. And anyway, we're sitting and we're talking and we're playing Abyss, which I loved Abyss, by the way. I've been thinking about Abyss ever since then. I keep looking for a copy to pop up that I can grab. It was excellent. I really liked Abyss. And we got to 5 o'clock and these two boys are like, oh, yeah, no, we signed up for those posters 2 days ago, but we're having more fun playing Abyss, which I thought was amazing. It was amazing for me. It's a very memorable experience from PAX. I think they were early 20s and they were just nice young boys who were playing with two old farts. Well, I'm an old fart. I would think I looks probably a lot younger and healthier and sprier than I am. But anyway, they were playing with two, let's call refined gentlemen playing Abyss, and they decided they were going to ditch the Xbox freebies that they'd waited in line for because they wanted to finish Abyss. And then we were talking about, it came out that I have a podcast. And then you mentioned that there was some podcasters that had done wonderful things for your game. And I went, oh, who are the podcasters? And you mentioned the guys from So Very Wrong About Games, Mark and Michael Walker, who are lovely gentlemen. And in my head, I'm like, this is going to... I actually went, this is Luke Badger, because they talk about Regicide all the time. And I said, tell me your game. And you said, I designed, or I was part of the design team that created Regicide. And I thought that was one of the most memorable moments of PAX for me, that I'd had such a delightful time playing games with somebody who was humble enough, and I'm going to pay a compliment, Luke, to sit there and play games with somebody. And it wasn't even like the third story you told. It was like the 33rd story you told of the day. It's like, oh yeah, I've made a little board game that's available in 20 countries, by the way. And from there, these two kids who had no idea that they were sitting with the board game designer, and granted, my listenership isn't the same as So Very Wrong About Games, but we do have listeners in 24 countries some months, which is lovely, but it's not thousands upon thousands. They were sitting there thinking that they were sitting with some kind of royalty. And then you proceed to pull a copy of Regicide out of your pocket and say, would you like to learn the game? So I got to play Regicide with Luke Badger at PAX, and you promptly went and signed the copy of Regicide and handed it to these young fellows who I reckon went away thinking they came for Xbox and they left as board gamers. Really, is
I hope so.
I hope so too.
They had a smile on their face.
They had a smile on their face. I had a wonderful wrap up to my PAX, and that is how we met. And that was a year and a half ago. And I said, hey, do you think you might spend some time and have a chat with me on the podcast? You went, yeah, sure. Here's my details. And here we are, finally, a year and a half later. We're here to talk about Regicide and Luke Badger. Did I get all the meaningful points on that, Luke?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you're making a much bigger deal about me being at the table than you should be. It's just I was there as a gamer. It was nice to...
You were there as a gamer. Look, look, and I'm going to say I had a 6-minute chat with Martin Wallace, and I hadn't had enough coffee. This was at another event last year, and I hadn't had a coffee, and I was having a chat. We're talking about games, and 6 minutes in, I looked up and I went, "I'm talking to Martin Wallace." And it's just, those are the moments that, as board gamers, it's funny because I've had the pleasure of chatting with Jamie Stegmaier, who's just an absolute gentleman. But to board game fans, you guys are a little bit of rock stars, and it's kind of cool. It's really, really cool for us. Anyway, that's the story. I'm delighted that we finally got here, and we can actually have a chat about Luke Badger, about Regicide, all things Regicide, and what's been happening. But that's the recap for anyone who's missed that particular episode. And from there, can I ask, can you share with me, what's your first board game memory, your first significant board game memory, Luke?
I've got pretty vivid memories of trying to learn 500 on a beach holiday with my older cousins. I was pretty little. It was too complicated for me. 500 is like you with most of the...
Oh, yeah. I played a lot of 500. Yeah.
I think it's quite Australia, New Zealand maybe kids. You played in Canada as well?
We do. We play a lot of it in Canada, particularly where I grew up. It's minus 40 Celsius in the winter, so anything you can do with a deck of cards is a magic trick.
Wow. Yeah.
Right, because you've got nothing to do but play games because you can't leave the comfort of your four walls. I grew up in the absolute coldest part of Canada. Unless 500 is a different game here. 500 over there is basically a card set collection game. Maybe it's a different game here.
Maybe it's a trick taker with left bower and right bower and 10 cards each. You got a kitty where you.
Yeah. Okay. So it sounds similar. Anyway, so 500 with your cousins. You were too young.
Yeah, and that's probably my first experience of realizing how tricky it can be to learn a complicated game.
Yeah.
But then getting around home, just always had games at home with the family, that sort of thing. But probably the tabletop game that got me into realizing, oh, this is something I could sink my teeth into was probably Hero Quest.
Oh, okay. So what year was that when you fell into Hero Quest?
91. 1991.
Yeah.
Time around there. Yeah, and so I had sort of mass market stuff before that. But Hero Quest was the first sort of rules heavy dive into tabletop gaming. And it just kind of took off from there, really. And pretty early on with my friends who I played with, we started designing, coming up with their own ideas. And so the first game that I ever really made was sort of like what I called Advanced Hero Quest, and I actually played it with my family with my siblings over summer holidays. And so it was quite an early bug to catch. It was good times.
Amazing. So Advanced Hero Quest, can you remember any of the specifics of Advanced Hero Quest?
It was a little bit more complicated. There was like a 2-hit system, so you had to roll to hit, and then you had different weapons dealt different damage. And then it was just like 50. I had 2 decks of cards, so you had 50 spells and 50 potions instead of the 3 and the 4. And you had personal stats, so you had like strength and intelligence, something like that. So as you got smarter, you got more access to more potions, and as you got stronger, you got access to more hit points. Just real basic sort of role playing stuff. But
yeah, nice.
It was fun. My sisters loved it.
Nice. And so I guess, just how did you get from Advanced Hero Quest to, I guess, Regicide? What was is board gaming your full-time gig, or is there a side of Luke Badger that's not in board games and does something else entirely?
Probably from late 90s, I started playing Star Wars CCG, the one made by Decipher back in 97, 98, which was amazing. And that's how I met Paul and Andy. So Paul and Andy are the co-designers on Regicide and Regicide Legacy. And I met them up in Auckland, and it turned out we're from the same town. And so we got together, and really that's where more serious, like consistent playing of games took over. We'd get together and play Star Wars, we'd get together and play La Chita, and then Catan came out, we're playing Catan, and then World of Warcraft, the board game. So by the time we'd been hanging out for a few years, we had quite a number of tabletop hours under our belt. And then fast forward a number of years to 2018, we'd already all been doing independent game designs at that point. And in fact, Andy and Paul were both working professionally as digital game designers at that point. And so we got together on Anzac Day. You know what Anzac Day is, but for
I
those
do.
who don't, it's our Memorial Day. And we came with our 3 different designs, but as a warm-up exercise, I said, hey, I've been thinking about just a standard deck of cards. Do you reckon you could make a dungeon crawler using a standard deck? All I've got so far is I think maybe the royalty are dragons, and maybe your hearts are like your health or something. And Paul's like, no, it's this, boom, boom. And we just started. And about 30 minutes later, we had 80% of Regicide.
Right.
And about 2 years later, we had 100% of Regicide. Yeah, so it was quite an interesting experience. So it ended up, we did some of our designs that weekend, but Regicide sort of became the main thing to come out of that. And that's the genesis of that particular project.
And so I guess I'll circle back. Are you Regicide design full time, Luke, or is there some side of you? Are you a trauma nurse between midnight and 8 a.m.? Is there a duality, or is this a full time gig for you now?
Since the start of 2024, Andy and I are now full time in publishing and
wonderful
our game, which is great. Paul works with us, but he's still got his own real big boy job.
It was a big boy job, yes.
To pay him what we'd pay ourselves.
Yes.
And then prior to that, I was a teacher and a software trainer and then software product manager.
Amazing.
Up until that time. So anything to do with helping people, teaching people, and that's kind of been my main shtick.
So Regicide, I guess the way I could describe Regicide is it's probably, and I can't think of anything that supersedes it in this realm. It is one of the cleanest and simplest rule sets, but you've created, and when I say you, I mean the team. I don't mean you, so just put the team on that. A game that is engaging, it's interactive, and I'll use the word engrossing, because when I play Regicide, I don't play one game. We play like 12 games, because you fall into this well of we're so close, we're so close, we're so close, we're gonna go one more time. And I guess I want to say congratulations for something so I guess tight. And I said, once you know the rules, it's not something it's like, well, what's the rule for this? It's really quite clear, but it's something that you can go back to, and I think it's going to be a fairly timeless thing. I guess what I want to ask a few questions, if I can, about Regicide itself. So the first I have is, tell me about the Sketch Goblin. How did you find the Sketch Goblin? Who's the Sketch Goblin? Because you try and find information about him, and you see he does contract work, but he seems to be a Regicide specialist. So how did you meet the Sketch Goblin? How did you decide on this particular design aesthetic? Because I adore the art in Regicide. I think it is whimsical, but also engaging, and it has a fantasy tilt. And for me, art's really important in a game. I play with a lot of people. They're like, I couldn't care less. They're happy to play Cascadero 99 times in a row, and it is beige, beige, and beige. How did the Sketch Goblin get involved?
So back when I was a product manager, I was chatting with a colleague of mine, and what are you up to this weekend? I'm just going to do a bit of game design work, I said. And he goes, my son does D&D art. I said, that's cool. And it had actually just gone full time, like a month prior. So I looked him up, and this would have been like 6 months after that Anzac Day design session, maybe. Yep. Maybe it's like a decent period of time after. And I was like, that's really cool. That looks really awesome. I love his art. And that was kind of that. And then another, 3 months, whatever it was, kind of clicked in my head. I was like, hang on a second. We kind of mostly made that game, and that game would be good as a standard deck of cards, and DJ's art would be great for that. We should probably polish this game up and finish it, and I'll ask him. So I reached out to DJ. He lived in Wellington at the time, but now he lives in Napier. And I said, hey, you don't know who I am, but I work with your dad. I think your art is amazing. We've got a game that we think it'll be perfect for. Do you want to team up? Can we do something? And we sent the game through. He said, yeah, I'm keen, so let's do it. So he came on as a partner, and he did the art for us, and we put it up on Kickstarter just as a real experiment. We between that conversation and putting it on Kickstarter, we did a lot of development work, a lot of tweaking and refining to try and get it to that rule set that you've mentioned. That was definitely a main goal for us. It's so important that things are tight and concise, and we place a big emphasis on elegance. So we really try to. It's what we enjoy in other games, and really try to make sure we stick true to that in our own games where possible. And so by the time that was all done, DJ's art was finished, put it up on Kickstarter, and we had, it was just like a modest total, and we had a modest Kickstarter, and that was off to the races. And so then when we decided to do Regicide Legacy after that, it was like, well, obviously DJ has to do the art, so we worked out how we can make that work with him. Obviously there's a pretty decent art output in that game.
Yeah.
So we sort of scheduled it up and worked out how we'd achieve that, and yeah, we came to the party again, and we got that done, and now he's as much part of the Regicide identity as anyone. And he really loves to go back and tweak and refine things. So if we do a second edition or a second print, he's like, hang on, let me just go and quickly make this better. Let me just tweak that off.
Yeah.
And what's quite exciting is that over the course of his career as going full time, his art has also continued to develop and become, in some ways, more detailed, but his own style is starting to come through stronger and stronger, and that's more evident in our most recent 2 games that'll be coming out soon. So no, it's been awesome working with DJ, and so great to have his consistent aesthetic across those projects. Yeah.
And I think having, your Regicide decks, they look like a standard deck of cards. So you've got this fantasy art piece in the middle, but with a plain white background. But for me as a gamer, that does two things. One, it reminds me that I can still play this with a standard deck of cards, but the fantasy art sucks me in. And we're going to circle back to Regicide Legacy in a few more minutes. But certainly as you start to get your story unlocks and Regicide Legacy goes on, your card art very much is reflecting the narrative that's sort of veneered over the game. And veneer is probably too insulting a word. It's, the narrative that polishes the game over. Your card art and the namings on the cards, you start to get to know your characters because I think it's a really lovely balance, Luke. I guess is what I'm trying to come back to. And I wanted to know more about Sketch Goblin because when you try and search about Sketch Goblin, you come up against a brick wall like he's a mysterious entity that just does regicide art and fantasy art, and reach out if you need something. So that's lovely that he's kind of part of the family. You've
always done a huge amount of work for us. He's a bit of an enigma wrapped in a mystery, but you know, got to just track him down.
Yeah. So you've touched on Paul and Andy as being instrumental, I guess, in Regicide and Regicide's evolution and everything Regicide. Do the three of you have a very sort of clear delineation of who's responsible for what in the Regicide game development? Do you have specialties? Is Andy good at balance and you're good at mechanics? Or do you guys just sit down and it's just an organic all in?
Yeah, the short answer is no. We don't have delineated specialties where we just do it. It's pretty much everyone works on everything and decides on everything together, for better or worse.
Yeah,
I think so much of what's good about the game is because we do that, but so much about what the game made the game so difficult to make is because we did that. Like, it's such a massive challenge to balance three perspectives and ideas.
Three creative inputs
all across everything.
Yeah, great. Sure. But it speaks to how well you must work together and respect each other's ideas. And when somebody's got an idea, that it's all, it speaks well to the synergies that come from the table.
I think so. It's most of the decisions are, pretty low stakes, and you can be flexible here and there. And some decisions just feel like the end of the world. And so it was, we had some big moments, just like we just didn't know how to move forward. And we had, we all felt really strongly about it. So you have to find out what you're going to do. And you might think that with, three people, you just go 2v1. But actually 2v1 wasn't really working for us, because sometimes it would be two people be like, yeah, no, I don't mind that. It's kind of okay. But the other person would be like, please, if this is in this game, I will hate it. It'll ruin it for me. And so you have to actually you've got to find something that works for everybody. And if you can't find something that works for everybody, it's time to move to another potential solution, which is incredibly challenging. But worth it, and something that we're really proud of. There's a few things in the game that I'm like, you know what, I really wanted to do it a different way.
Yeah.
But the way it is fine. It's the way the world knows it, and it works totally fine.
It's
cool. Everybody thinks that's how it's supposed to be, so it's all good.
And I get what you're saying, because creative output is something that, if you're a creative creator, that's a horrible turn of phrase, a creative creator. If you are a creative, let's say that eternal assessment of your own work, I find, because I'm a highly creative person. I do a lot of artwork. I'm a chef by trade, and I worked in very high pressure realms at one point in my career where the dish was everything. And every day you go home and you think, well, that was terrible. I could do this better. And I, circling back to what you said about Sketch Goblin, where he's constantly reassessing his work and fine tuning and going back and saying, well, this could have been better. I should have done this better. So I get exactly what you're saying. Is there a part of Regicide that you look at and think, the answer could be a simple no, we love it. But is there a part of Regicide where we go, I really wish we'd done something differently? I can't think of what, because there's only 5 rules and they're so tight and clean. But is there part of Regicide where or is that where the new Inferno and Duels has come from, where you're flexing and going, well, this is where we thought, or some of those debates perhaps about Regicide have now evolved into these new versions?
Yeah, it's a good question. In terms of original Regicide, I don't know. There's much I don't think I would want to change.
There's nothing that hit the cutting room floor. There's nothing that hit the cutting room floor that you go, okay. That's great. That's wonderful.
I don't think so. It was really hard to get stuff into the game, like including a rule in the game was a big deal.
Yeah.
So something like the combo rule, right, which is where you can play 3 3s or 2 4s together, like that was not a given. Like we had to fight to convince the team that it was worth having that extra rule for that extra feature.
Yes.
Now, some people will name that as their favorite part of the game, which is great. And we all agreed that it was the right thing to put in there, but it wasn't just a given. So the idea that there'll be something on the cutting room floor, I think we gave those things a pretty good nudge for core Regicide. So I'm very happy with where that stands. Probably maybe some rule book stuff that
Sure.
we've tweaked in second editions, but no, pretty happy with it.
And the rule you're talking about, if I'm not mistaken, it's the kinfolk attack rule.
That's right, yep.
And for me, it's the one rule that saves me from going down in flames sometimes. It's that one pressure release where you go, what the hell are we going to do with this? And all of a sudden you realize, well, actually we can nudge these two things together and we can get it over the line. And instead of shuffling and starting again, we actually get one more card play out of it. So I'm a fan of that particular rule, because I think it adds a meaningful lever in the game that's otherwise missing. Or you have it with the pets a little bit, right? You know, with your pet rule.
Yeah.
Awesome. You know, Regicide's a fairly well-known and distributed game. I think when we met at PAX, you just launched a Japan-specific deck. I think you had the copy you had these lovely Japanese. It had Japanese themed art. Like, I think from memory there was one of the pets. It was a Japanese Shibu dog, I think, from memory.
Yep.
There you go. Yep. Right. So it's been, what I'm trying to make out is, excuse me, it's been picked up and published by a number of big names, including Aiello and Devere. And I know you started at Kickstarter, but anyone can play Regicide anywhere with a standard deck of cards. It's an absolutely unique business model, and some would say that's a little crazy to say, well, here we want money from you. But you don't have to. Here's our free rules. You can go get a deck of cards and do it on your own. It's wonderful because all of a sudden it's accessible. And I can tell you as a gamer, I go, well, I can play with a deck of cards. But there's this new Japanese one that has Japanese art that's really cool. Well, I want that one. But it's an interesting business model. How did you and Paul and Andy come to the conclusion that you were going to make something and sell it, but also in parallel give it away? How did you come to that decision? Because I guess from the outside, it looks like it's worked for you. But it's a wild decision as a businessman to decide we're going to potentially give away what we're making.
Yeah, probably the biggest idea behind it is that it was not a business decision for us. We did not, when we put it up on Kickstarter, our only goal was to say, hey, this is us. We can design something. I'd like you to check it out. That was our goal. And if at the result of that we made $0, we needed $25,000 to fund. But if we, after that, made no more money, that was mission accomplished, because we wanted to put it out there and just show the world that we could do something. That was what we wanted to achieve. All of the, we theorized about what could happen, about what might happen. I thought 50% of the people were going to say, oh, that's cool that I can play it at home with a standard deck. And then the other 50% were going to say, what are you doing? Like, what a stupid idea. We had one person. We had one person say that.
Yeah.
Everyone else was like, oh, this is cool. This is a good idea.
Yeah.
And I think maybe what's worked in our favor is that actually there's a lot of things in the world that people spend money on that they can get for free.
That's true.
But just the fact that you can test it and try it first actually reduce the barrier to entry. Like, to go and try, there's heaps of good games out there that in order to try, you've got to go and drive to a board game shop or head out to a board game cafe, or ask one of your friends to buy it, or drop $200 on a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
For our game, the benefit was it wasn't even a print and play. It was just a play. You don't even have to print anything.
That's right.
Just pick it up and go for it. And so I think that accessibility was what was really important for us. It completely worked in our favor in terms of the design. Like you talked about the art, keeping it that traditional deck. The main reason we did that is because we didn't even know if people would want it.
Sure.
We thought that if they played Regicide and didn't like it, at least they could use the deck to play other games anyway.
Sure. Yeah.
So it was keeping the scope as wide as possible. So we really had no idea. Of course, we dreamed and hoped that maybe people would like it and want to buy it and grab it, and they have. And every time someone does, they go, we just really wanted to support them. Designers, and that's been awesome.
I absolutely love that, Luke. It's the fact that you guys couldn't care less whether you made any money off it. You just made something you wanted to share with the world, And for me, I've mentioned, I'm in hospitality. I was a pastry chef for many, many years. I got out of bed for 3 decades because I wanted to make people happy with food. Now, I have had the pleasure of working as a chef in New Zealand, and I have been a working chef for many decades. We don't do it for the money. There's not a lot of money in it, so we do it because we want to make people happy with food, and so your answer certainly resonates with me in a major way. I want to talk about. Sorry, go ahead. Did you have something else you wanted to say?
No, that's right. Not Karen.
I want to talk about Regicide Legacy now, please, if we could, because the Regicide Legacy was a Kickstarter you had last year, and it delivered last year, and I will have a sincere thank you here. You were kind enough to provide me a copy for free, which is woefully unnecessary, but I'm very delighted to have it. Talk to me about how Regicide Legacy came to be.
I actually looked up the Google Doc before this conversation because I thought you might ask the question. We kickstarted Regicide in 2020. It ended on May the 4th. And then on the 20th, we created a Google Doc that said Regicide Legacy.
That's so good. I love that. Yeah.
The contents of that document are hilarious. Like there's almost nothing in there that translated through to the end thing. But we were thinking about it at that point. And so much of what was restrictive about Regicide that we loved, like coming into this system, where you're already using a deck of cards, the components are completely done before you even start. We thought, what is the other side? What does the other end of that look like? What can we do with this core little system we've created? And at that point, Regicide still wasn't really a thing. We might sell one through our website every month, every week, or something like that. So it's by no means a big deal, but it was just something we're interested in. And over the course of, 4 years, we got more and more serious about it, started investing more and more time into it, until basically towards the end, it felt like an additional full-time job for 3 people.
Yeah.
Meetings multiple times a week, playtesting sessions, all of that, plus all the other paraphernalia that goes along with that, like art and getting all your rules done and the production of the stickers and where cards get cut, all that sort of thing. It just became all-consuming. But we realized that we had something that we thought was compelling, and what we did with Regicide is we designed it for ourselves.
Yeah.
It's got to be something that we want to play, and we did the same thing with Regicide Legacy, and we just hoped that someone out there would also have the same taste and sensibilities as us. And yeah, it was kind of the trickiest thing about Regicide Legacy was the decision. It wasn't really decision. We kind of had no choice, but we had to keep it. We wanted to keep it difficult. It needed to be Regicide.
Yes.
It couldn't just be Regicide light, easy, breezy way through. But by the same token, Legacy games, that wasn't really a main feature of Legacy games, that you would have to do it over and over again. It's normally like try it once or try it twice and then move on to the next. So we had to find ways to be true to the identity of Regicide, but at the same time, make it a relevant product that people would feel like they're making progress on. So just like, and other decisions around that, like what is the identity of this game going to be? Like that was probably the biggest thing.
Sure.
We had to work out, is it going, for example, there's no text on cards in Regicide. Does that mean we do no text on cards in Regicide Legacy? Obviously we decided to go down that route. There's not a single word written on any card in Regicide Legacy, but it's those sorts of benchmarks that you have to decide on relatively early, and a lot of those are really hard to come to agreement on and work our way through. But once we got along with me, Andy, and Paul on those big things, we're able to forge on through, and it was an awesome experience. It was incredibly challenging, very rewarding. And glad to be doing it with my best mates, that's for sure.
Amazing. I'm going to try and do my best to talk about Regicide Legacy in a spoiler-free way, because I think the delight of Regicide Legacy starts in scenario 2 when you pop it open. And so basically the way it works is you start off and you're playing regular Regicide. Now, if anyone's played regular Regicide, you don't win very often. I don't know what everyone else's metrics are, but if I win one game in 20, I'm doing really well, Luke. I don't know what everyone else's metrics are on that realm. But if I win one game in 20 of regular Regicide, I am high-fiving every day. And, excuse me, so Regicide Legacy, you start off, you're playing basic Regicide. And clearly you don't want people who are new to Regicide to play 20 games of Regicide before they get a chance to see something new.
Yeah.
So there's a wonderful mechanic where every time you lose, you get to get a little bonus that slides into your deck and makes your deck a little more powerful and just helps you along to the next level. And we discovered that we were playing on ultra hard level, unintentionally, because if you don't want any spoilers at all, just skip forward 60 seconds here. When you lose a game of Regicide Legacy, you get a gold coin. You get to spend that on other cards that you can bring in. I won't talk about those cards. If you lose a scenario twice, you get 2 gold coins to spend. If you lose it 3 times, you get 3 gold coins to spend. Now, please tell me, Luke, that I've got that correct.
Correct so far, 100% correct.
Great. We played 6 games giving ourselves one, I'm going to swear here, fucking gold coin every game we played. So we played 6 games of Regicide Game 1, getting 1 gold coin every time. And everyone went home going, God, are we ever going to get Scenario 2? And I was putting it away and I read the rule book and I went, oh, guys, my bad. We should have had, I don't know what that is, 30 gold coins by then. And so, yeah.
Numbers.
Yeah. Yeah. So we played on ultra hard. So we sat down, we played again, and we whizzed through Scenario 1, which was great. Scenario 2 was an absolute delight. And so what happens is each box brings out, so far, different targets, shall I say. I want to keep it as spoiler free as possible. Different targets come out rather than, the royalty each time, and they have different needs that have to be met. And I remember we got Scenario 2 out, and we were playing Scenario 2, and we looked at it and went, oh, really? How many times are we going to play it? And we smashed Scenario 2 in one hit. It was amazing. And we thought, we are king of the hill. We beat Scenario 2 in one hit. Yeah! Screw you, Regicide Legacy. We're amazing. We opened Scenario 3, and we're like, okay, this looks a little tricky. Well, 3 goes at Scenario 3 later. We're still wildly hopeful. Like, we're the eternal optimist, Luke. We're in Scenario 3, and we've played it a few times. We can see the matrix. We can see the way through it. We just haven't got it yet. But can I tell you, you keep the flavor of Regicide, you keep the soul of Regicide in every game. But the extra layers that come on are just enough to... It's like having half a meal. And I mean that as a compliment. You have half a meal, you're like, God, I'm still hungry. You've just had a taste, right? You've had half a meal, and unfortunately playing it again doesn't give you the other half of the meal. It only gives you the first half of the meal over again. And I mean that as the highest possible compliment it can be. If there's anything, we are absolutely loving it. We had a whole day. There was a board game event in Sydney yesterday, and it's a ticketed event. You go and you play board games for 12 hours, and we pulled Regicide Legacy out as the first game of the day, and I think it was 2 hours in, they were like, okay, set it up, we're going again. I said, guys, we have other games we want to play today. And they're like, one more time. Shut up, James, we're playing one more time. Put it over to one more time, which was, it's wonderful, Luke. It's absolutely wonderful. I'm loving it. I am eternally grateful. Sending me a complimentary copy was not necessary. I would have been very happy to pay for it, but I'm very thankful, and all my gratitude to Badgers from Mars for providing a review copy to One Man Clapping. We are loving every minute of it, and you will hear about it on the show every time we play. So that's Regicide. No, thank you, Regicide Legacy. I'm delighted to hear that it was born the day after you finished the first game, because that's a delight to hear. I want to talk now. You've got 2 new iterations of Regicide on the horizon: Inferno and Crown Duels.
Yeah, so they'll be coming to crowdfunding very soon, possibly floating around on Kickstarter when someone's listening to this. We wanted to give something to the players who loved Regicide and wanted more, but couldn't commit to a legacy experience either because of time or cost or just the fact that it's the word legacy. Some people are turned off by that.
Yeah, it's terrifying to
and
some
so
people.
Yeah, that's understandable. And so with Regicide Inferno, the idea was, how can we make a Regicide Advanced? It's not really Regicide Legacy Light. It's more like Regicide Advanced. And so we do that by introducing a 5th suit.
Yes.
So
is the mages?
That's right. Yep. So what we've rethemed it to the Regicide Legacy aesthetic. So instead of hearts, diamonds, clubs, spades, we have clerics, bards, warriors, paladins, and adding to that mix is now the mages. So we've got a 5th suit. They're really powerful, but they come with a price. And so we wanted to put that in there. We've also got are ways that the enemies get more dangerous every round. And we also introduced some mini bosses. So after you face all the jacks, you then face the mage jack. And then after you face all the queens, you face the mage queen. And after all the kings, you face the mage king. And they, in addition to getting stronger, also gain extra immunity. There's a couple of extra little bits of spice in there, ways that allow you to interact with your teammates a little bit more, which is quite fun in terms of those combo or kinfolk attacks you talked about. And also the combo limit is increased from 10 to 12.
Okay. So you can throw down 3 fours, but
threes.
Nice. Nice.
So it's more, just a bit more going on. Really rewarding to play, good fun, and just sort of a few new heuristics to learn along the way. And we also addressed a few of the critiques of the original Regicide. As an experienced player, they're not actually that big a deal, but when you're first coming to the system, I understand why people don't enjoy them. So if you hit, if you go Queen of Diamonds into King of Diamonds, that you can feel like, man, how are we supposed to beat this? Or that doesn't happen in Regicide Inferno due to the splitting up of those mage enemies. So that's been quite nice. And then Regicide Crown Jewels is different. It's set in the same world, but a very different game. It's a 2-player battler head to head. It's in the title. You probably worked it out from the word duels. And it's actually designed by DJ Sketch Goblin and our Paul. They worked on that together to put together a really tight rules list. They went through a bit of a development process, and we're super stoked with where that's at. Totally different game, although it's got some of that. You'll recognize some of the DNA. The biggest thing is that it's based on a standard deck of cards again, so I've gone back to our roots, and anybody can just download the rulebook and have a crack at it.
Well, can I talk about each of them separately, Luke, for a couple of minutes?
Of course.
Wonderful. So with Inferno, I think it's really clever going with moving towards the Regicide Legacy iconography, particularly having a 5th suit. It can no longer be used as a standard deck of cards, obviously, right? So having standard suits on there is not of any use to anyone. As a Regicide player, I'm both delighted and terrified that there's now a new boss at each level. So thank you for that. That's setting a bar even higher.
It'll be fun.
I really like the sound of the mages. It's almost like wild magic. If you've ever played D&D, you've got a little bit of a wild magic twist in there. If you haven't read the rules, they're not long. Go have a look. But I really love the sound of the mages. I think it sounds great. I do want to note that if you back this on day 1, there is a free promo card, which is a gnome mage called the Peanut. If you listen to the show, everyone knows my youngest daughter, her name is the Peanut. She's the nickname. And so if you've got a short, angry person called the Peanut in your game, you're getting my money every day of the week, unfortunately. Well, fortunately. I think it sounds great, Luke. I think Inferno sounds like Regicide for gamers. It's just got that one extra layer that just gives you that one little bit more of the puzzle that keeps you going back after that half meal over and over again. I'm very excited to see it, and the art looks amazing. But with
I hope you get the
look, as I said, it's I think it's a wonderful move. Crown Jewels, I've had a look at it, and I want to pay it a compliment. It's not going to sound like a compliment. I think I've done 2 or 3 of those today, but I looked at but I mean it as a compliment, particularly from somebody who's very deep into Gen X territory like myself. It looks a lot like 1993 Magic the Gathering. And what I mean by that is Magic the Gathering in 1993 had like 5 rules. It was a head-to-head battler with 5 rules, right? I was an OG Magic the Gathering player, and I loved it, and I played it for years and years and years. But it was such a clean rule set. It was more than 5 rules, right? It was a small rule book, but you could teach all the rules of Magic the Gathering in 15 minutes, and then you could play. And there was none of this, well, how do these 3 cards interact? Because now we have this volcano going off, and first in, first out, last in, first out, all this nonsense. I look at Crown Jewels, and I go, that takes me back to the really clean head-to-head battlers that you can teach in a handful of minutes, but play 10 times on a rainy Sunday. And so when I say it, like, people will these days hear Magic the Gathering and go, oh my God, no. That's not what I mean by it. What I mean by it is OG Magic the Gathering was such a joy to play we would get together and play it for 12 hours straight because it had that push-pull. And I think Crown Duels has that same DNA. It's a totally different game, but as somebody who's 52 and was playing MTG in the early 90s as a 20-year-old, I think it's going to tick a lot of the right boxes, Luke, and I just really love the way it looks.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, we're very stoked with the way that DJ's pulled the aesthetic together. You haven't actually got to see much of the art yet. We've got some splash through the rule book, and but we've got our playmat done, and the cards are just going to look gorgeous, as always from DJ. Yeah, it has got more of an old school vibe, but anything, I guess, any sort of 2-player duel, it owes a lot to that game, doesn't it, in that time? So
well, they do, but
2026,
so many of them are so overwrought and so overcomplicated, Luke. You know, trying to get into a new system now, like I'm not going to name any names, but there are so many of the TCGs that are out now, and you either have to commit as a lifestyle player to it, or but you're right. I mean, head-to-head dual card games, they owe a lot to Magic the Gathering, but Magic the Gathering in 2026 is a beast that is terrifying for new players, right? It's like, well, how can I play? Yeah.
Gotta go watch all the episodes of Doctor Who first. And
That's right.
Marvel.
That's right. And now we've got Spider-Man, and now they've just done Fallout. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is coming out. I mean, you know, exactly. They like money, so why wouldn't you? But at the same time, it's a wild world. So now sorry, go ahead, Luke. Do you have something?
No, I was just going to say we did try to, and that right from Paul and DJ at the start, we want to try and keep it lean, and part of its DNA is you know, how can we call this a Regicide game? It's got to have that same ethos of as minimalist rules where possible. Now it does actually have a lot more rules than Regicide, just because of the nature that every card has different powers and different zones. So there's quite a bit more to teach there, but it's still well within the realm of, you know, 2 people sitting down and just walking through and getting up to speed. And then once you know how they work, the game flows really nicely, and it's not too scary at all. And yeah, it's important that, you know, just that you get good bang for your buck on a rule, and if a rule's not carrying its weight, we generally get rid of those pretty quick.
And do we get a hint as to a go live date on Kickstarter, or is that all hush hush at this point?
No, it's to be March 17th, so it's a couple of days away.
March 17th, fantastic. And so you've got 4 iterations of Regicide in the world. Do you have a favorite child?
Oh, I guess I like them for different reasons. Same reason I like my own children, for different reasons. Probably original Regicide, just for what it's done for my life.
Yeah, fair.
That's probably the biggest thing. It's just changed the way I work and what I get to do with my time and the people I get to meet and the travel I get to do. So that's been the biggest one. In terms of actually things I want to sit down and play, I mean, after finishing Design Regicide Legacy, I went through and played through a campaign with a mate and just had a blast. Like,
yeah.
I just love that game so much.
Oh, it's wonderful when, you know, and I'll use the analogy of, you know, myself, when if I make a meal and I can enjoy my own meal, but with someone else, it's a beautiful thing. It's an absolutely beautiful thing if you can share something you've created with someone else and they also enjoy it. You know, that's what I get out of bed for every day. That's beautiful. It's wonderful. Can we touch base on, I might mispronounce it, is it Moana Nui?
Perfect pronunciation.
Wonderful.
Yep,
so Moana Nui was a Kickstarter that was launched by Badges from Mars last year, and for whatever reasons, you elected not to go through with it, and we don't need to nitpick on those. But will that be coming back round at all?
Those reasons are the most interesting part about it.
Okay, well, if you're happy to share them, we'd love to hear it. So if you want to talk about Moana Nui a little bit, about the game, I mean, I don't know anything that wasn't obviously listed in public domain, but it looked... I mean, the art looked great. The gameplay looked really sharp. Do you want to talk about it a little bit and what's in the future for Moana Nui?
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, Moana Nui is a game that I started designing a long time ago and then polished up and with the help of the guys here. And we had what we thought was a really impressive rule set, just a tile placement game with hexagonal tiles, and the twist is you get action points to spend based on the number of edges that the tile touches. Set in ancient Polynesia with a pretty genuine attempt for some authentic theming, and we're really happy with the game. We put it out there, and it, for whatever reason, just failed to fund on Kickstarter, which for us was like very disappointing. Like we spent a lot of time and a lot of money getting that ready, and then to put it out there and to not really to get the attention was disappointing. But it didn't actually hit me as hard as I thought it would. I always thought that if a Kickstarter failed, that I'd just be questioning my existence. And
Sure.
desperately sad, but it was actually okay. Like it was unfortunate that it happened, but we put something out there, and we said, "Do you want it?" And the response was, "Not very much," and so that's kind of okay. Like I can live with that. In terms of why that failed, I mean, I think we undercooked the lead up to the campaign, so we didn't bring in as much pre-launch attention to the campaign as we should have. And I guess part of the reason for that is we thought, look, we can. What's 100 more followers on the campaign when we've got all these people who really enjoyed Regicide and Regicide Legacy? Surely our newsletter and our existing customer base is going to be dwarf anything that we can do through that an advertising push like that.
Absolutely.
But it just turned out that our customer base loves our games because they like challenging cooperative card games, and we put out a competitive tile placement game. And it turns out that they didn't actually care that the game said designed by Luke Badger, Paul Abrahams, Andy Ridgedale. They cared because it was the game that they love and they wanted to play.
Sure.
And so putting out a new game under under our banner didn't actually count for much. It was just it didn't resonate with what they were wanting to play. We're really proud of the design, and I think we've had another publisher talk to us about potential future of that. So I think it'll come back at some stage. I think like to add maybe some asymmetric powers and an additional resource sink, so I might get a little bit more gamey, but it's a cool little game that just didn't find its feet at the right time, and it sucked at the time, but we're able to carry on, and hopefully we'll find a future for it soon.
Yeah, look, I would liken your analogy to a customer's walked into a Thai restaurant and they're offered would you like a delicious cheeseburger with that? It might be an amazing cheeseburger, but you're not there for a cheeseburger. You're there for Thai food. And so I think I appreciate and am grateful for your candor and transparency, Luke, and sharing the reasons. It's not easy when you've created something and people go, no, thank you. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens to it in the future. Can you give us any hints about any other projects you might be working on? Or is there anything in the background, even if it's way, way off, that it's just a sneak peek? Or is it all Regicide all the time right now? Or is it more Regicide?
No, we are working on a game that Paul has designed called Viking Rush. Paul has poured his heart and soul into getting this game up to speed. It's a real-time co-op, so again, leaning more into what our fan base enjoys with the cooperative element, but it is real-time. You are a family of Vikings settling a valley, exploring the valley in real time, trying to make sure that before the 4 minutes or 5 minutes runs out, that you have collected enough resources that you can build a pickaxe, that you can collect the stone because you need the stone to build the knife, so you can get the knife to go and get the sheep, and then you need the sheep to build your shelter, and to feed more people. And there's only 20 seconds left, so everyone has to build their own shelter and store enough food up for the winter. It's got sort of like crafting elements to how you do that, highly reliant on cooperation and pre-planning,
right?
And it's an absolute blast. And so that's we're working on the graphic design is almost done, the art is all complete, the design is complete, rulebook is almost complete, and the insert, which has probably been the most labor-intensive component of it, will also be nearly done as well. So hopefully we'll have a version of that floating around at Gen Con if people want to come up and check it out.
Amazing. I like to close out with a question. It's a variation on something that happens in my life or has for the last sort of 4 decades. When chefs are getting around at the end of the day or at the end of an evening, we've had a couple of glasses of wine, we like to play a game called Last Meal. And what would be the last meal you ever want to eat? And I want to flip it around and say, if tonight you could, for whatever reason, like, let's not make it dark. No one's dying. But for whatever reason, tonight you can only play one board game and it will be your last. What would that game be, Luke?
Do I get to choose who I play it with?
Sure, why not? Yeah, absolutely. But you only get to play one game. What will be the last game? It's a good question because it's not always your favorite game.
I think I'd get Paul and Andy together and my best mate Jason, and we'd get some Star Wars CCG out, and we'd just have some light side, dark side matchups and swap around a bit and just play for a few hours. I think that would be
amazing.
A good way to finish up.
Amazing. I guess one last. This is a personal question. Are you going to be at PAX this year in October in Australia?
I think it's very unlikely that I'll be there. Unfortunately, we will be just getting back from Gen Con the month prior, and we are targeting possibility of getting over to Essen. So
yes.
I think it's going to be a bit jam-packed, which is gutting because I had such a good time there. It was such a great convention.
It is great. The vibe is so good. Yeah.
So good. And I was kind of surprised at how much it was actually dedicated to tabletop. I thought it would be mostly pop culture and a couple of tables, but it was huge. Certainly from anything that I'm used to here in New Zealand. So no, it was great to get over. Probably not this year, but it's on the list.
All right. Well, I'm sorry to hear you're not coming, but I'm delighted that the serendipitous universe decided to thrust us together for a game of Ark Nova a year and a half ago. I want to say thank you for your time, Luke. It's been a delight. Getting to just speak to you again, but two to learn. To learn where Regicide comes from is to learn about your board game life and how it was born and how you met Paul and Andy. And I look forward to many more games of Regicide. I'm very much looking forward to Inferno and Crown Jewels being birthed into the world. And just a huge thank you from me for sparing your time on this Sunday afternoon.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking your precious time to play something that we just made up. It's been the joy of the last 5 years of our life that people who we didn't know want to sit down and spend their precious time with friends and family, tossing some cards around, and that's been the thing that's been just the most almost overwhelming, to be honest, the greatest joy we've derived from it. So it's our absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Locked in the bunker, shadows shake. One man clapping secrets away. Board games living, dice they break. Echoes pounding, hearts they quake.